We're talking to Frank Mrvan the 30 is the trustee here in North Township, which means he's in charge of poor relief and so forth. This is actually big news, and we played your interview with Stu a couple of times.
That is correct.
And people have asked questions about it because, quite frankly, it seems almost like a complicated idea that 11 trustees are coming together to do what? One of them is to streamline your prescriptions and save some money that way.
Correct. So we either can lower our tax levies or help more people. Those are our options. The third, which is very important and is a work in progress, and what we're doing is all 11 township trustees. So as you mentioned, Calumet and North are the larger townships. We have more employees. The rural and St. John Township, Ross Township has a little less, 10 to 15 employees. We're pulling together in our health insurance pool. So what that does is we're going to all join all of our 11 townships together, have all of our employees, and go to one health insurance coverage, which a bigger pool, the power of 11, will be able to save us money. And we will be able to get the best plan with the best maintenance and be able to shop as a bigger group and be able to save more money for all the townships who are involved. And the fourth was we created a county-wide disaster response team that we are inventorying all our assets. So if Alice Dahl in Lowell has a disaster, she knows that she can, because of mutual aid agreements, she can rely on our caseworkers and our capital, meaning our goods, to come down and assist. That does not mean we're going to go down and provide, dollars for her residents, but we're going to be able to use our manpower and our capital to be able to assist her in any kind of disaster, tornado, flood, fire, whatever she calls us on. We have a team and an action plan in place that will be able to be implemented and mobilized and get down there. And we're able to utilize all the township assets. For example, during the flood, many people from all over the area stayed at Mary Elgin's shelter for 4 or 5 nights. The American Red Cross designated that as one of the shelters. Now, you'd say anything could be used as a shelter, but that's not true. You have to have X amount of food and storage, and you have to be able to provide showers for a shelter. Like the social center and a lot of different areas don't have that. I know in Hammond you have the Civic Center. But we're able to utilize those types of things to be able to assist everyone involved throughout the 11 townships. So I thought that was a leap in great advancement for the townships, because if you're going to consolidate or not consolidate, like the state and the governor wants to, the Republican Party and the governor, this is saying we could fix ourselves or we can make ourselves better. It's not allowing the legislature to come back and say this is what you need to do.
Is this a preemptive strike?
This is a strategic plan that I feel was necessary.
Okay, so if you guys understand the perspective here, the state of Indiana, ever since Mitch Daniels basically got into office, has been trying to abolish townships. Of course, quite frankly, North Township up here is one of the biggest examples that is shown downstate of how it can work, especially since we're so far from the county.
Right.
And your example. So what you guys have done is come together, 11 townships.
Correct.
And said, all right, we're going to pool our resources in a number of ways. Does that lessen their argument downstate to get rid of your townships?
Well, I'm going to articulate it, and I'm going to go straight at it and not dance, because sometimes I dance like any other political person. Calumet Township's ground zero in the elimination process in the state legislature and with the governor as far as the abolishment of townships, because of the Griffith into the Gary disproportionate belief of what they pay into it and what's going on there.
Griffith pays into Cal Township,
right.
But gets
so
only
that's the biggest argument.
Little bit back.
So Reifka and Jerome have a legitimate argument, and they are battling down in the legislature. I'm not saying that that's why we're doing it, but what my approach towards it was, and why I tried to organize this and be part of this, is because if we're at ground zero, let us begin to do things to fix ourselves. I've also worked with Mary Elgin, and the 11 township trustees have worked with her on what things she could do to correct that issue. And I could go into that whole scheme of things, but the fact of the matter is we've got to begin to change things to take the fact of the matter is that consolidate or get rid of townships, because what's going on in Gary or what's going on in Calumet Township. Well, now we're fixing ourselves, and Mary Elgin and Calumet Township is a big part of what we're doing. I'm a big proponent in one of her proposals in the paper today is setting up an office, a satellite office in Griffith, because that issue, and I'm going to go off track, but the Calumet Township issue is 3 parts. It's economical or fiscal to the people in Griffith and the people in Gary. It's political because I'm going to look everybody in the eye. Rifka Jerome and the current sitting city council and the Republican Party have an issue that voters resonate to in the town of Griffith. And if they're constantly battling for that, then they're constantly going to be getting favorable approaches. So it's their issue, and it gets them good traction. And it's also racial. And I'm not going to run away from that. I'll tell Mary that. I'll tell anybody that. I've talked to her about it. It's racial. You've got to break those barriers. But the most poignant thing in the paper today that Rifka and Jerome say is Mary Elgin, who's cut her budget when Dozier Alla had it from about $26 million to $8 million, now says she's going to cut it by $1 more million. And you know what their response was? And I'm not going to get political, but this is another whole side of different facts in government. She's going to cut her budget by $1 million, and she's going to try and set up a satellite office so she could service more people, so that the people from Griffith who are afraid to go to Gary have a place right in Griffith to do that, which I think is a good idea. But what their reaction was is, sure, Mary, if you lower your taxes by $1 million, other taxing agencies in the town of Griffith will eat up that money. And what people need to understand is now with tax caps, you have a bowl of water or a fish bowl. You fill it up with water, so the fish bowl is full. Mary Elgin takes 4 cups out of that fish bowl, and so it lowers the water. And then you have the library board or the town of Griffith or the school system of Griffith are going to consume that $1 million because you have a cap. So they're going to lift their levy. That's what they say in the paper. That's the problem with the tax caps, is if someone voluntarily lowers their tax cap, now we're competing against each other where other tax levies can raise their tax levy to get to that tax cap. And the school system's in dire need of money. The town of Griffith, I'm sure, wants to increase or do better things with their infrastructure. The libraries in Griffith want to do more things. So what is the argument? How can Calumet Township actually fix that problem?
Okay,
do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand the Calumet Township and the Griffith issue. And that is one that clouds the issue downstate, because downstate they say, look at Calumet Township, what a fiasco that's been over many years, going back to Dozier Allen.
Correct.
Okay, Dozier Allen gave it, when they couldn't pay the $16 million.
But that day is gone.
That day has come and gone, but the taste still hangs around.
Absolutely.
So when you sit down, and I got to believe you were the moving force behind this, and you say, hey, listen, we're going to pool our resources. We're going to all buy, we're going to have the same standards in all of the townships. We're going to pool our resources to buy insurance and do all of the other things that you say. Is that a preemptive strike?
Yes, it's a strategic maneuver. Not only is it saving us money, but when you're being attacked all the time, you either sit back and let them decide your fate, or you begin to take steps and you are in a proactive way trying to change things. Those steps are good things. Those steps are absolutely things that should come about. So I guess in desperation comes innovation. So either I could either search for another job, or we can all become innovative and figure out what we could do better. Because statistically, on one hand, what's worth fighting for is, I know for a fact every day we help at least one person. And where will that one person go? Things aren't getting better. I know I flip-flop on that, but for the majority of people, you are still going to have a percentage of people who lack the skills or who are caught up in a circumstance beyond their control that have made them or put them in a bad spot. The township trustee's job is to very quickly and decisively assist them and get them back on track.
Frank Mrvan III is in the house. We're going through some rather complicated stuff, but it affects a lot of people. There's a lot of people hurting right now. There's a lot of people that need poor relief. There's a lot of people that are listening right now that can't pay their light bill, and I understand that. And we try to get an understanding of it, and that's good that you come in here and kind of say where we're at and so forth. But in the end, the existence of townships is still on the block, and they're going to go at it hard again in the spring.
Right, and here's the thing. Here has been my approach towards that. And when we gathered together and we talked about it, because people could look at this Because the reverse side of the progress is, well, now, and the Times in an editorial kind of touched on this. They said, well, now they are in the position where they could be consolidated. The fact of the matter is legislatively, for the last 6 years, they haven't had the votes. The Republican majority in the House and the Senate have not abolished townships because the legislators believe in the system. The governor may want to reform government and get rid of, 1,008 trustees, and there's a lot of logical arguments why that should be done. And it's beyond this show, but the fact of the matter is that the townships that are working, and the townships, the large urban areas and the rural areas, Stu said it best. When I went down to Indianapolis, I used it. Lake County Townships is a microcosm of the state of Indiana. And if we could do this here with North Township and Calumet Township and St. John Township and Cedar Creek Township and Lowell and the smaller townships, then you could do it across the state of Indiana. We need to put ourselves in a position that we're not the outsiders looking in the window of the legislature saying, please don't get rid of us. Take the steps that we need to take to make ourselves more efficient and more effective.
We've got a lot of people that want to comment, but let's just take them through, guys. We gotta rush it through. We got Jim Foster up next. He buys the time. We'll start him at exactly 9:15. Hey, you're on the air. What's up?
Hey, I'll be quick. Frank, about the prescription thing you got going.
Yes, sir.
How was Fagan chosen? Was there a bid put out?
There was not a bid put out.
I don't want it to look like it's patronage. It's a good idea, but...
Right, and that's a great question. Townships and government, and this is going to be a long answer, but it's going to be the truthful answer. When I came into office, I immediately looked at Walmart and Walgreens and Target. But because there is a time, because of the tax draws, we have a delay in paying back, meaning that we sometimes go over 30 days, sometimes 60, sometimes 90, because if the tax collections are behind, then our checks from the tax collections are behind, then we can't pay every time on the 30-day mark. So we used Fagan, we use, I'm blanking out, small place on Kennedy Avenue. Vito's. We used the smaller mom-and-pop pharmacies in North Township to do that. When the 11 townships came together, everyone noticed a commonality that everyone used Fagan. And the most important part of that is with that FQHC, them being a participating group in our areas being a designated underserved medical area means that we qualify to receive prescriptions at 2/3 the cost. So we're saving between 50 and 60% on the cost because Fagan is part of that program, which is a federally designated program. So it is an economic issue to use them. Secondly, Jerry Fagan, a young man who's the technology director and also a pharmacist, came to me a long time ago and said, hey, we can do this. So it was a open market kind of decision. And we're not exclusive because, we still shop pricing and we do what is necessary as a consumer to make sure we're getting the best deals. But there was not a formal request proposal put out there. It was just a working relationship that benefited all 11 townships and allowed us to be the most economic in our decisions and the most technically advanced to be able to do that.
All right, Guy. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you. Let's move on. Hey, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. As an informed person that's helping the community out, two quick questions. How can we help to resolve the corruption problem in our state, in part of the state? And number two, how do we draw attention? Because obviously some people don't like the idea of regulation, but yet we have laws to kind of govern our behavior every day. What effect did the eliminating Glass-Steagall Act do to our country?
Okay, hold on a second, Vic. We can only take one. I'm going to have him go at the first one. Corruption.
Correct corruption in our area. You just whitewash through that system. What I mean by that is as that culture or that goes on, new people come up and replace that. So a vigilant voting body that really gets to know who they're voting for is the first step. I'm sure that there are ethical contracts and different things everyone can sign. I always looked at an ethical contract like I'm going to sign this, but what does it really mean? I know I'm ethical. I'm going to make the right decisions on a daily basis or attempt to. And how you change the culture of corruption in our area is you need to be a very vigilant voting body and examine everything that I do and a transparent government.
You know how you do it to some people? You change the name from Region Rat to Region Air.
Right on.